vous oubliez un petit peu.
Non.
On va vous demander de couper parce qu'alors ça filme.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to welcome you all to our committee meeting this afternoon for this special item on the agenda in association with the Delegation for Relations with Iran, with guest speakers advocating for a free Iran. At the beginning of today's meeting, a few housekeeping notes. First of all, I would like the photographers to eventually take their pictures and also be seated. Since we had a number of colleagues who showed us how proud they are that their telephone rings during a meeting, there is on our mobile phones a knob where you can turn off the sound. Perhaps you've seen or read it once before. It is possible. So if you could all just double check your phones, that would be very helpful. The same applies to iPads. And the third thing is, just for those who are guests at our meeting today, we're very happy and always very proud to welcome many visitors to our meetings. If I could just remind you that applauding or commenting or anything else is not allowed for our visitors. So please remain silent, but we're very happy that you are here. Followed the developments, the widespread protests in Iran very closely over the last weeks and months. where millions of citizens were demonstrating against the Iranian government and its policies. We were all deeply shocked by the violent repression and crackdown of those protests by the Iranian regime, which resulted in massacres of tens of thousands of innocent protesters and countless arrests of others. The European Parliament, and here I'm addressing our Iranian guests, has repeatedly expressed its concerns regarding the actions of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its oppression of the Iranian people. We have always stood behind the democratic aspirations of the Iranian people, and we have highlighted their right to determine their future government. After violent repression from the IRGC, it was MEPs who unconditionally demanded an immediate end of violence against peaceful protesters. This House has also demanded to halt the executions and seize the murder and repression of civilians in a number of resolutions that were adopted in January and February. It was in that context that the coordinators, that means the representatives of the political groups in this committee, decided already on the 28th of January to organize an exchange of views with people advocating for a free Iran. While we could not, of course, unfortunately, invite everybody who is active in this scene, the political groups in this committee tried to ensure a diverse participation, so invitations were sent out to 7 Iranian guests. And since I've received thousands of emails addressed to me personally, may I just once again underline, this was a decision taken jointly by the coordinators in our committee to invite exactly these guests. Unfortunately, Mr. Reza Pahlavi was not able to participate due to a previous commitment, but we are very pleased to have 5 speakers present, some of them with us here in the room and others participating remotely. And symbolically, we have also left 1 empty seat here on the podium representing those who are in Iran. Colleagues, our speakers today are Dr. Shirin Ebadi, Sakharov and Nobel Prize laureate. She will be connected online. Then we have sitting next to me, Mr. Mustafa Hijri, Hijri, leader of the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan. Then we have Mr. Abdullah Mohtadi, leader and Secretary General of the Kamala Party of Iranian Kurdistan. Then we have Mr. Saeed Bashirtash, leader of the political organization, the 7 Aben Front. And finally, Ms. Sanas Bezadi, artist and journalist working for the Association for the Promotion of Open Society on Iran, APOS. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Before giving you the floor, as this point is in association with our Delegation for Relations with Iran, I will now give the floor to the Chair, Ms. Hannah Neumann. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, speakers, for being here. Dear colleagues, we are meeting today at a moment of deep uncertainty. A ceasefire has been announced. It remains fragile. And while much of the international focus is on negotiations between the United States and the Iranian regime, one essential element risks remaining being overlooked once again, and that's the people of Iran. Inside the country, repression is escalating rapidly. Mass arrests and forced disappearances, including of Sakharov Prize laureate Nasrin Sotoudeh, the longest and most profound internet shutdown the world has ever seen, a dramatic rise in executions. This is the reality in which Iranians live today. And yet, the recent diplomatic efforts, whether from Washington or Tehran, do not reflect it, nor do they reflect the aspirations of the Iranian people for freedom, dignity, and democratic participation. Not a single point put forward by the negotiation teams, the US and Iran alike, is about the people of Iran. That is why today's roundtable matters. It is a modest but still important attempt to give space to Iranian voices. We are joined by representatives of Iran's democratic opposition, reflecting the diversity of Iranian society. And this diversity is not a weakness. It is the foundation for a free Iran, because any real transition will only succeed if it includes all parts of society. So let me begin by thanking those who accepted our invitation, because I know speaking here also comes at a cost for you. More threats, more pressure, more repression by the regime against you and your families. And then there is an empty chair. It stands for those who cannot be here, because they are inside Iran, imprisoned, silenced, cut off from the world by the brutality of the regime. This chair is a reminder to all of us. Many more should be part of this conversation, but they cannot be. And no single group, no single voice, no panel alone can speak for Iran as a whole. Let me be equally clear, Iran's future will not be decided in Brussels. Change must and will come from within Iranian society, but that does not make us spectators. It gives us responsibility to listen, to amplify, and to act with clarity, to place human rights at the center of our engagement, to speak out against executions, to demand the release of political prisoners, to oppose internet shutdowns and repression, and to finally drain the resources of the Islamic regime. But above all, to listen to those working for a free Iran. So to our speakers, I would like to ask the following questions. What is your vision for a free Iran? What will it take to make that vision reality? And as you in the European Parliament, how can the European Union best support in this process? So that one day, the people of Iran can decide freely how they want to be governed and by whom. Baroye Azadi.
Thank you very much, dear Hannah. Dr. Shirin Ebadi will speak first for 7 minutes, and colleagues, Ms. Ebadi will speak in Farsi. I hope you are connected, madam. Does anyone feel responsible? Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Can you?
Yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Ebadi. This is the European Parliament in Brussels, the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I will now give you the floor to roughly 7 minutes, if that's okay. Please, madam, you can speak now.
ریاست محترم جلسه، نمایندگان ارجمند، خانم ها و آقایان، با تشکر از فرصتی که داده شد، امروزه کشورم ایران درگیر 2 جنگ است. جنگ اول با آمریکا و اسرائیل که مرحله دوم این جنگ از 28 فوریه شروع شد و اکنون در دوران آتشبس 14 روزه هستیم. جنگ دیگر جنگی است که بین جمهوری اسلامی با مردم ایران از سالها قبل شروع شده و هرگز آتشبسی هم در آن اتفاق نیفتاده است و من در مورد جنگ دوم با شما صحبت می کنم. و چون این جنگ قدمت زیادی دارد، من فقط 4 ماه اول سال 2026 را مورد بررسی قرار می دهم. در روزهای اول ژانویه مردم ایران برای چندمین بار در 15 سال گذشته به خیابان آمدند تا اعتراض خود را به شیوه حکمرانی جمهوری اسلامی اعلام و درخواست خود را برای تغییر به صورت مسالمت‌آمیز بیان کنند. مهمترین علل نارضایتی مردم کاهش ارزش پول ملی و گسترش روزافزون فقر و نقص فاحش
2. Please continue, sorry.
بله. و گسترش روزافزون فقر و نقص فاحش حقوق بشر و فساد اداری است. مردم در پایتخت و 400 شهر دیگر به خیابان آمدند و علیه حکومت شعار دادند. تعدادی از مردم رضا پهلوی ولیعهد پیشین ایران را صدا زده و خواهان مراجعت او به کشور بودند. این امر خشم حکومت را برانگیخت و به دستور رهبر مامورین با اسلحه جنگی شروع به کشتار مردم کردند. فاجعه‌ای به بار آمد که گزارشگر حقوق بشر سازمان ملل متحد برای ایران آن را در حد جنایت علیه بشریت نامید. تعداد دقیق کشته شدگان هنوز مشخص نیست، اما طبق برآورد رسانه‌ها و مؤسسات حقوق بشری بیش از 40,000 نفر کشته شدند که در میان آنها 230 دانش آموز دبیرستانی و 100 کودک کار بودند. تعداد دستگیر شدگان از ابتدای ژانویه به بیش از 40,000 نفر برآورد می شود که قسمت آن مربوط به افرادی است که متهم به شرکت در اعتراضات، همکاری با دشمن، جاسوسی و نشر اکاذیب هستند. در همین مدت بیش از 160 نفر اعدام شدند که 14 نفر آنها متهم به جرائم سیاسی بودند. این گونه اتهامات تماماً در اتاقهای دربسته و بدون دسترسی به وکیل مورد رسیدگی بودند. برای نمایش واضح‌تر سرکوب در ایران یادآور می‌شوم که در طی 38 روز حمله نظامی آمریکا و اسرائیل به خاک ایران تعداد 3753 نفر کشته شدند، اما جمهوری اسلامی طی 3 روز در اعتراضات ماه ژانویه 10 برابر این تعداد را به قتل رسانیدند. از ابتدای ژانویه تا روز گذشته حکومت بیش از 1120 ساعت اینترنت بین‌المللی را قطع کرد. در این مدت فیلم‌ها و اخبار کشتار مردم از طریق تعدادی استارلینک که قبلا به ایران ارسال شده بود مخابره می‌شد و به همین علت هم حکومت داشتن استارلینک را همکاری با دشمن اعلام کرده و چند نفر هم در این زمینه بازداشت شدند. قطع اینترنت باعث صدمه جدی به کسب و کارهای اینترنتی شد و طبق محاسبات اقتصادی خسارت مستقیم قطع اینترنت روزانه بین 30 تا 40 میلیون دلار برآورد شده. به گزارش یونیسف، جمهوری اسلامی در جنگ با آمریکا و اسرائیل مبادرت به کارگیری کودکان برای کارزارهای بسیج مردمی و همچنین استفاده از آنها برای ایست‌های بازرسی در خیابان‌ها کرده که حداقل 1 کودک در این ارتباط کشته شد. و آخرین نکته، تعدادی از افرادی که از عملکرد حکومت انتقاد کرده بودند یا در رسانه‌های فارسی زبان خارج از ایران فعالیت می‌کنند و نیز تعدادی از پیروان دیانت بهایی اموالشان مصادره شد. اخیراً هم اسامی 400 نفر در این ارتباط اعلام شد که اموالشان مصادره شده. در خاتمه لازم به یادآوری است در تمامی مواردی که گفته شد حکومت‌های اروپایی چشم بر جنایات جمهوری اسلامی بسته بودند. ما فقط مسئول اعمال و گفتار خود نیستیم، بلکه مسئول سکوت و بیعملی خود نیز هستیم. با تشکر از حوصله شما و وقتی که به من دادید.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibadi, for your statement. Now I give the floor to Mr. Mustafa Hijri. The floor is yours for 7 minutes. Welcome.
سڵاوتان لێبێ بەڕێزان ئامادەبووانی هێژە بەڕێزان ئەندامانی پارلمان سەرەتا دەمەوێت سپاسام بکەم بۆ ئەم دەرفەتە کە بانکێشتنی لانێکەمی ئۆپۆزسیۆنی ئێرانیتان کرد تاکو لێرەوە بیر و بۆچوونی خۆیان سەبارەت بە ئەمڕۆ سبەی ئێران بخەنە ڕوو.
Excuse me.
Yes?
There's something wrong with the interpretation. You're not connected. I can hear you now. We would like to hear you when Mr. Hijri is speaking. Is that possible? Okay, continue. Sorry. Or perhaps can you start again from the beginning?
Okay.
From the beginning.
Good. بەڕێزان ئەندامانی پارلمان ئامادەبووانی هێژە سڵاو و ڕێزی خۆمتان پێشکەش دەکەم. سەرەتا سپاس دەکەم بۆ ئەم دەرفەتە کە بۆ بانگێشتنی ئێمە لانیکەمی ئۆپۆزسیۆنی ئێرانی هیوادارم ئەوە هەنگاوێکی یەکەم بێ و لە کۆبوونەوەکانی دیکەدا ئێمە شاهدی ئەوە بین کە ژمارەیەکی زیاتر لە هێزەکانی ئۆپۆزسیۆنی ئێرانی بۆ باسکردن لە بیر و بۆچوونی خۆیان لێرەدا کۆ ببنەوە. ئەوەی کە ویستم بە زمانی کوردی قسەتان ئاراستە بکەم لەو ڕاستیەوە سەرچاوە دەگرێت کە زمانی ئێمە زیاتر لە 100 ساڵە لە ئێران ئینکار کراوە و بە فەرمی نەناسراوە. واتە منداڵانی ئێمە ئیجازەی ئەوەیان نەبووە کە بە زمانی دایکی خۆیان بخوێن نەبنووسن. بەڵام ئەمڕۆ من لێرە بەو زمانە قسە دەکەم تاکو بەشێکی بچووکم هەبێ لە خەبات بۆ بە فەرمی ناسینی زمانی دایکی خۆم. بەڕێزان ئەمە سێەم جارە ئێرانیەکان بۆ بنیادنانی دموکراسی تێدەکۆشن بەو مانایە کە خەڵکی ناو چوارچێوەی جوغرافیای سیاسی ئێران لە هەوڵی بەردەوامدان بۆ گەیشتن بە ئازادی و ڕزگاری بەڵام بەداخەوە تاکو ئێستا سەرکەوتوو نەبوون. لە ڕوانگەی کوردستان و بە تایبەت حیزبی دموکراتی کوردستانی ئێرانەوە کە من نوێنەرایەتی دەکەم کێشەیەکی بنیادی لە ئێران هەیە ئەویش دەوڵەتێکی نامەدەنی پاوانخوازە کە ڕێگای هەر چەشنە ئازادیەکی بربەست کردووە. لە ئێراندا دوو جار دەوڵەت لە ئاراستەی مەدەنی دەرچووە. جارێک پاش شۆڕشی مەشروتە کە لەوێدا نظامی پاشایەتی دەوڵەتی کردە سیستمێکی پاوانخواز و جاری دواییش لە ساڵی 1979 بەملاوە نظامی ئاینی دەوڵەتی کردە کەرەسەی پاوانخوازی و بەڕێوەبردنی ئایدۆلۆژیای خۆی. لە سەردەمی پاشایەتی ناسنامەی فارسی دەوڵەتی بەکارهێنا تاکو هەموو فرەیەکان بسڕێتەوە و تەنیا ناسنامەیەک، تەنیا زمانێک، تەنیا مێژوویەک و تەنیا کولتورێک بەسەر ئەوانی تردا بسەپێنێت و ئاسمیلەیان بکات. لە کاتێکدا ئێران کە وڵاتێکی فرە زمان، فرە ناسنامە و فرە کولتور و فرە مێژوویە. لە ساڵی 1979 جارێکی تر ئێرانیەکان بە هیوای بنیادنانی سیستمێکی دموکراتیک ڕاپەڕین. بەڵام ئەم جارە دەوڵەت لەلایەن ئاینی شیعەی ویلایەتی فەقیه وە کۆنتڕۆڵ کرا و ئەویش هەوڵەکانی بۆ سڕینەوەی ئازادی و فرەیەکانی ناو ئێران خستە گەڕ. ئەمڕۆ دەبینین کە دەوڵەتی ئێرانی تەنیا مەترسیەک نییە بۆ ئێرانیەکان بەڵکو مەترسیەکە بۆ هەموو جیهان. مۆدێلی ئێمەی کوردستانی بەر لە هەموو شتێک کۆنتڕۆڵکردنی پاوانخوازی ئەو دەوڵەتەیە. بە دیاریکراوی ئێمە دەمانەوێت دەوڵەت ژێردەستی هاوڵاتی بێ، نەک هاوڵاتی ژێردەستی دەوڵەت. میکانیزمی ئێمە بۆ ئەو شێوە لە حکوومەتە نظامێکی دموکراتیک، فیدراڵ و سکولارە. لێرەدا هێز لە ناوەندێکدا کۆنابێتەوە و دەتوانێت پاوانخوازی دەوڵەت کۆنتڕۆڵ بکات. ئەوە بە تەنیا چارە دەبینین بۆ بنیادنانی ئێرانێکی دموکراتیک، ئازاد و سێکۆلار کە لەوێدا ئێران ببێتە مڵکی هەموو دانیشتوانەکەی، نەک مڵکی گروپێک. لە بەرامبەر ئەم داخوازیەدا ڕژیمەکانی پاشایەتی و دوای ئەو کۆماری ئیسلامی بۆ پاراستنی توتالیتاریزم و پاوانخوازی خۆیان ئەم داخوازیە دموکراتیک و پێشکەوتن خوازانەیان وەک سربەخۆیی زانی و ئەم نەتەوانە سربەخۆیی زانی ئەم نەتەوانە لە قەڵەم داوە و بەو تاوانە سەدان هەزار کەسیان ئیعدام و زیندانی کردووە یان ناچاریان کردووە لە ژێر زەختی سەرکوتدا وڵاتی خۆیان بەجێ بێڵن و پەرێوەی هەندەران بن. ئەوە لە حاڵێکدایە کە ئەزمموی دنیای پێشکەوتوو نیشانی داوە کە ڕێزدانان بۆ جیاوازیەکان و بەڕاسمی ناسینیان نەک هەر نەبووتە هۆی دابەشبوونی وڵات، بەڵکو ڕاست بە پێچەوانە بەهێزترین ئامرازی یەکگرتوویی ئارزومەندانە و پاراستنی وڵات و نیشتمانن. یەکگرتوویی خاک و نیشتمان ئەو کاتە دێتە دی کە هەموو پێک هاتە جیاوازەکان لە بەڕێوەبردنی ئیدارەی وڵات و ناوچەکانی خۆیاندا بەشدار بن و بەو شێوەیە وڵات ببنە پێشەوە، نەک گروپێک لە ژێر سەرکوت و زەبر و زەنگ هەموو وڵات بۆ خۆی داگیر بکە و باقی دیکە پەراوێز بخات. بزوتنەوەی ئێمە پشتی بەو بەها مرۆڤانەوە بەستووە و دەیهەوێ بە پێچەوانەی دوو ڕژیمی پەهلەوی و کۆماری ئیسلامی سەرانسەری ئێران بە کوردستانیشەوە ببێتە مەکۆی سەقامگیری و پێوەستبوون بە جیهانی ئازادەوە. لەبیرتان نەچێت کە کوردستان لانکەی بزوتنەوەی ژیان ئازادیە. ئەم بەهایانە لای ئێمە پرەنسیپ و ئەقڵیەتێکی بنیادین، نەک دروشم. بزوتنەوەکەشمان ئێمە لە خانەی ئەو بەهایانەوە خۆی پێناسە کردووە. هەر بۆیە ئێمە بیر لە چەوسانەوە، ناسەقامگیری و نەمانی ئاسایش ناکەینەوە، بەڵکو بۆ بەدیهێنانی هەوڵ دەدەین، مەگەر ئەوەی جارێکی دیکە هەوڵی لە ناوبردنمان بدەن. لە کۆتاییدا بە ناوی هاوپەیمانی و بەتایبەتی حیزبی دموکراتی کوردستانی ئێرانەوە سپاستان دەکەین بۆ ئەم دەرفەتە و لە دواییدا ئەگەر کاتە بێ دەکرێت دووبارە باسەکانمان درێژە بدەین. سپاس لە هەموو لایەک.
Thank you, Mr. Hijri. I now give the floor to Mr. Abdullah Muqtadi, Leader and Secretary General of Kamala Party of Iranian Kurdistan. Please.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, honourable members of the European Parliament, dear guests. First of all, thank you to the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Iran delegation for inviting us here today. The topic that brings us together, a free Iran, is incredibly important, not just for the people of Iran, but for the entire region and even the wider world. So, thank you again for organizing this timely event. Today, when people talk about the Iranian regime, they often think of armed proxy groups, missiles and drones targeting cities, businesses, hotels, refineries, and energy facilities. setting entire region on fire, and of its involvement in foreign wars. But the truth is, the main victims of this regime have always been the people of Iran themselves. Long before this regime ever fired a missile abroad, it declared war on its own people. It shut down the free press, banned labor unions, violently cracked down on women, and imposed severe restrictions on their lives. It launched attacks on Kurdistan without any provocation and without any justification, creating scenes of terrible violence. Universities were taken over by armed militias and turned into places of repression and bloodshed. Regions like Turkmen Sahara and Khuzestan were brutally suppressed. Thousands of activists, political, civil, women, and even teenagers were arrested, tortured, and executed without any fair trial. In short, this regime's war against its own people started long before any conflict with the United States or Israel, and long before European cities became targets of its terrorist operations. We should also remember that the attack on Kurdistan happened even before the takeover of the US Embassy in Tehran. That is exactly why the issues of freedom in Iran must not be overshadowed by the clouds of war, or pushed aside because of different opinions about recent conflict, or because of any criticism one might have of US policies. Supporting freedom in Iran, supporting people's movement for change, including their right to change the system, is what we truly expect from Europe. So let's not keep complaining about the atrocities of the past and concentrate on what a new, free, democratic Iran should look like. What we are looking for and what we have been fighting for is a democratic, pluralist, tolerant Iran, where no one single social group, no one single ethnicity or religion or political trend to dominate the powers of the state, impose a new exclusivity and therefore a new dictatorship. What we need is a new constitution that respects diversity, pluralism, and inclusiveness, embraces power-sharing arrangements, and commits to the rule of law, equal citizenship, human rights, freedom and democracy, peace and development, and thus makes Iran a reliable and responsible member of the international community. A free, democratic and pluralistic Iran, one that respects human rights and is built on a modern, forward-looking constitution that recognizes, among other things, the rights of Kurds and other nationalities in Iran, can also become a reliable partner for peace and global development. Long live freedom, Bji Jin Jian Azadi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhtadi. Now I give the floor to Mr. Saeed Bashir Tash, the leader of the political organization, the 7 Urban Front. Please.
Thank you very much. جناب رئیس، نمایندگان محترم، خانم‌ها و آقایان، از دعوت شما برای حضور در این نشست صمیمانه سپاسگزارم. من امروز اینجا نه به نام قوم یا مذهبی خاص، بلکه به نام ملت ایران با شما سخن میگویم. آمده‌ام تا صدای ملت ایران را به گوش شما برسانم. ملتی تاریخی، یک پارچه و دلیر که با تمام توان خود برای رسیدن به آزادی مبارزه می‌کند. من از مردمی سخن میگویم که از 18 دی تا کنون از دسترسی به اینترنت محروم شده‌اند. رژیم اسلامی اینترنت را قطع کرد تا پشت درهای بسته مردم ایران را قتل عام کند. به دنبال فراخوان شاهزاده رضا پهلوی میلیون ها ایرانی در روزهای 18 و 19 دی به خیابان ها آمدند. در آن 2 شب هولناکترین کشتار خیابانی تاریخ رقم خورد. رژیم اسلامی 40 تا 50 هزار تن را کشتار کرد. حتی مجروحان را از بیمارستان ها ربودند و به قتل رساندند. بیش از 100,000 نفر نیز بازداشت شده‌اند و تحت غیر انسانی ترین شکنجه ها قرار دارند. با این همه مردم ایران حمایت و حتی همدلی شایسته‌ای از سوی جهان دریافت نکردند. این در حالی است که ایرانیان تنها ابتدایی ترین حقوق خود را مطالبه می کردند: آزادی، کرامت انسانی و همان ارزش هایی که جوامع غربی بر پایه آنها بنا شده اند. ملت ایران بزرگترین متحد جهان آزاد در خاورمیانه است. در مقابل رژیم اسلامی بزرگترین دشمن غرب در خاورمیانه است. امروز بروکسل در تیررس موشک‌های رژیم ایران قرار دارد. شاید برخی ندانند چرا برد موشکی این رژیم تا بروکسل میرسد، اما ما میدانیم. این رژیم نه فقط ملت ایران بلکه موجودیت تمدنی غرب را نیز هدف گرفته است. هدف نهایی جمهوری اسلامی آنگونه که در مقدمه قانون اساسیش آمده بر پایه امت واحده جهانی است. رژیم اسلامی دشمن مشترک ملت ایران و جهان غرب است، اما متاسفانه برخی در اروپا هنوز به درستی به این واقعیت پی نبردند و حتی جنگ اخیر را ریشه مشکلات کنونی اقتصاد اروپا نامیدند. در حال آنکه این خود موجودیت رژیم اسلامی است که امروز و فردای اروپا را تهدید می کند و حتی جنگ کنونی نیز از پیامدهای یاغیگری‌های این رژیم است. رژیم اسلامی به تنهایی بیش از همه سازمان‌های تروریستی جهان در خاک اروپا دست به طراحی عملیات تروریستی زده است. تلاش‌های آن برای دستیابی به سلاح هسته‌ای تهدیدی جدی علیه امنیت اروپا است. کمک‌های نظامی جمهوری اسلامی به روسیه در جنگ اوکراین نیز تعرضی مستقیم علیه امنیت اروپا است. این رژیم ناامنی و جنگ را به سراسر خاورمیانه تحمیل کرده و همچون رژیم هیتلری با تقریباً همه همسایگان خود درگیر بوده است. تنها در جنگ اخیر به 9 کشور منطقه حمله موشکی کرده است. اروپا نیز به طور مستقیم از جمله در بحران مهاجرت سوری‌ها و افغانستانی‌ها و تهدید آزادی کشتیرانی در باب‌المندب و اخیراً تنگه هرمز از ناامنی و جنگ‌هایی که رژیم ایران در منطقه دامن زده تأثیر پذیرفته است. البته در طول جنگ 39 روزه اخیر به هیچ وجه شاهد افزایش مهاجرت ایرانیان به خارج از کشور نبودیم، چرا که ایرانیان در آرزوی سقوط رژیم، رسیدن به آزادی و بازسازی کشور محبوب خود هستند. بدترین کابوس آنان بقای این رژیم است. اگر این کابوس به واقعیت بدل شود و رژیم ماندگار شود، آنگاه احتمالاً میلیون ها ایرانی راهی اروپا خواهند شد. همچنین تداوم این رژیم پس از قتل عام دی ماه شکستی بزرگ برای گفتمان دموکراسی در جهان خواهد بود. اگر چنین جنایتی بی هزینه بماند، دیکتاتورها در سراسر جهان دیگر از قتل عام مردم خود برای ماندن در قدرت باکی نخواهند داشت. نمایندگان محترم، ایران دارای دومین ذخایر گاز و چهارمین ذخایر نفت جهان و جمعیتی بزرگ تحصیل کرده و توانمند است. با این همه سطح روابط اقتصادی ایران و اروپا امروز به رقمی ناچیز در حدود 5 میلیارد دلار در سال محدود شده است. با سقوط جمهوری اسلامی هزاران میلیارد دلار فرصت سرمایه گذاری در ایران پدید خواهد آمد و ایران می تواند به یکی از مهمترین موتورهای رشد اقتصادی اروپا و تأمین کننده مطمئن و پایدار برای انرژی این قاره تبدیل شود. ایران یکی از کهن‌ترین کشورهای جهان با حوزه فرهنگی و تمدنی گسترده است. مردم ایران در سال 1906 با انقلاب مشروطه یکی از نخستین تجربه‌های دموکراسی خواهی مدرن را در منطقه رقم زدند و امروز نیز خواهان سرنگونی رژیم اسلامی و استقرار یک دموکراسی لیبرال هستند. شاید بتوان گفت کمتر ملتی به اندازه ملت ایران برای رسیدن به آزادی هزینه نداده است. تنها در 10 سال گذشته 4 خیزش بزرگ مردمی را شاهد بوده ایم. دی 96، آبان 98، جنبش زن زندگی آزادی و سرانجام خیزش ملی کنونی. پس از قتل عام دی ماه ایران دیگر هرگز شبیه گذشته نخواهد بود. دیگر هیچ گونه تعاملی میان مردم ایران و رژیم باقی نمانده و ملت ایران به چیزی کمتر از سرنگونی جمهوری اسلامی رضایت نمی‌دهد. این واقعیتی است که جهان باید بداند. مردم ایران هرگز تا این اندازه یک پارچه و متحد نبودند. قتل عام دی این روح مشترک و همبستگی ملی چند هزار ساله ایرانیان را بیش از پیش تقویت کرده است. در دی ماه امسال میلیون ها ایرانی در سراسر کشور از کرمانشاه، بزرگترین شهر کردنشین در غرب ایران، تا مشهد، بزرگترین شهر خراسان در شرق ایران، از تبریز و رشت در شمال تا بوشهر در کرانه‌های خلیج فارس به خیابان‌ها آمدند و نام رهبر خود شاهزاده رضا پهلوی را فریاد زدند. من امروز اینجا ایستاده‌ام تا در پارلمان اروپا صدای مردم ایران باشم. از طرف مردم ایران و جبهه 7 آبان می‌خواهم که حق و خواست مردم ایران برای رسیدن به دموکراسی را به رسمیت بشناسید. سفیران رژیم اسلامی را از کشورهای اروپایی اخراج کنید. آلترناتیو مورد خاص ملت ایران به رهبری شاهزاده رضا پهلوی را به رسمیت بشناسید و از مبارزات مردم ایران پشتیبانی عملی کنید. پیروزی مردم ایران، پیروزی اروپا، پیروزی ارزش‌های جهان شمول و پیروزی انسانیت است. از توجه شما سپاسگزارم.
Thank you, sir. And now I give the floor to the artist and journalist Ms. Sanaz Bizadi, who works with the Association for the Promotion of Open Society on Iran. The floor is yours, madam.
The coincidence of this event with the Holocaust Remembrance Day recalls a crime in which millions of Jews were brutally murdered. It also compels us to remember the Iranian victims of what we call the Iranian Holocaust, victims of horror, massacre, terror, and execution not only in the past 3 months, but over the past 47 years, from every ethnicity, from every city, and every corner of the country. So I would like to propose a moment of silence for both the Jewish victims of the Holocaust and the Iranian victims of this ongoing tragedy. A moment of silence for Nika, for Sepehr Baba, and for thousands of other innocent people, from Abbas Hoveida to Feridun Farrukhzad. Dear everyone, I appreciate the opportunity to address one of the key challenges of European foreign policy. My name is Sanaz Behzadi. I represent the Association for the Promotion of Open Society, an institution active in the fields of democratic transition, civil society development, good governance, and policy dialogue on Iran. Let me be clear from this outset. The discussion is not only about Iran. It is directly linked to Europe's strategic interests, its energy security, and its role in shaping one of the most sensitive geopolitical transitions of our time. What is unfolding in Iran today is not a temporary crisis, but the convergence of three deep accelerating trends. First, the widespread collapse of the political legitimacy of the Islamic Republic, a reality clearly reflected on the continuation of protests, reports by independent institutions, and the regime's increasingly defensive reactions. The repression has not been merely political. Over the past 47 years, patterns of inequality and discrimination in Iran have been driven less by purely ethnic targeting and more by structural factors, namely unaccountable governance, rent-seeking resource allocation, uneven regional development, and systematic political exclusion, structures that without institutional reform will continue to reproduce themselves. Second, the escalation of military tensions in the region, with a real risk of expanding into a trans-regional conflict. And third, an issue that's received not enough attention in policy discourse. The question of transition in Iran is no longer a distant prospect. It is a present reality. The question is no longer whether change will occur, but what form it will take and whether we are prepared for it. These trends taken together have turned Iran into a critical node in the global security and economy, with direct implications for Europe, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to highlight a geopolitical reality. The Strait of Hormuz is not merely a regional waterway. It is the most vital choke point in the global energy infrastructure. Around 20% of the world's oil trade passes through it daily, a significant portion of which reaches Europe. The Islamic Republic has repeatedly threatened to block this route, and under escalating crisis conditions, this threat is no longer hypothetical. Its consequences for Europe are clear: energy price spikes, inflationary pressure, and so on. Yet the reality also has another dimension. A stable and democratic Iran would not use this position as leverage, but could instead become a reliable partner for Europe's energy security and regional stability. This is not idealism, but a clear definition of strategic interest. We are not here merely to describe a crisis, but to present a practical path forward. A real win-win scenario exists already, rooted in a structured transition framework designed by a team of capable Iranians. The Iran Prosperity Project, IPP, led by Prince Reza Pahlavi, is not an abstract proposal, but a phased roadmap for political transition focused on fundamental reforms, preventing a power vacuum and establishing a democratic government. In any transition process, having a unifying political center is crucial. Today, initiatives around the leadership of Prince Reza Pahlavi have been able to create part of this capacity. Alongside this, transitional justice is decisive. The Islamic regime in Iran faces a heavy record of human rights violations, and without accountability mechanisms, any transition risks descending into cycles of revenge. For this reason, efforts are underway by a committee under the leadership of Shirin Ebadi. Within the same project, the project team to design mechanisms for the truth-sitting, for accountability and social reconciliation, with the aim of balancing justice and stability. History shows that without this balance, sustainable transition is not achievable. Ladies and gentlemen, within this framework, a contradiction must also be addressed. The continued operation of Islamic Republic embassies in Europe, while the same unaccountable structures are the source of crisis, is not aligned with democratic objectives. A reassessment of this approach could form part of a more coherent, value-based policy. We, Iranians living in Europe, consider it ourselves our home. And we see it as the home of our children. We see the future of our children here. For this reason, we speak to you today both as Iranians and as European citizens. The European Union's approach has so far been largely cautious and reactive, but given the pace of developments, this approach is at the risk of missing a decisive moment. Therefore, 3 concrete steps are recommended. First, revising Europe's diplomatic tools, shifting from crisis management towards preparations for transition scenarios. Second, establishing structured dialogue with civil society and responsible opposition actors, particularly those committed to nonviolent institutional approaches, the ones who speak for everyone in Iran, not any specific group. And third, taking a more active role in shaping the international conversation on Iran's future, before even reduce Europe to a purely reactive position. Dear everyone, Iran is entering one of the most consequential turning points in its modern history. How this transition is managed will affect not only millions of us, Iranians, but also regional stability, Europe's energy security, and the credibility of the international community. What is required now is an accurate understanding of realities, readiness for multiple scenarios, and the political will to act decisively and responsibly.
Ms. Benadi, may I ask you to finally conclude?
Yes. This window is still open. The Association of the Promotion of Open Society stands ready to contribute through analysis, facilitation, and engagement of the Iranian civil society, the facilitation of dialogue, and engagement with Iranian civil society. A win-win outcome is possible, but only with timely action. Thank you for listening. I talk too much.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. I will now open the floor for questions and comments, starting with the representatives of the political groups. It's 2 minutes each, and for the EPP, Michael Gahler.
Thank you very much to all who have contributed here to this session. I think there is a broad consensus here in the House that the Iranian people deserve better. They deserve to live in a democratic state, in a state where every citizen is respected, has his and her rights fully granted, and where the diversity of the society and of the nation is also duly reflected. Insofar, I hope that those who are like-minded in this sense find common ground. And that is, of course, the challenge and also a question. I would wish, and that is a question to all of you, that you could, with the common goal of overcoming the mullah regime, whether you can find enough patience, enough openness to tolerate yourselves amongst yourselves and, so to say, see the higher common goal as a fundament to work together. So insofar, I would like to hear whether those of you who are here and beyond, of course, are willing and able to seek dialogue. And the question is, of course, for us, can we facilitate such dialogue? That is the one thing. The other thing is the question whether this current war from the US and Israel against the regime, my fear is that to an extent they bomb the people back to the regime. Is that a legitimate fear? Is that a point where the regime could profit from in the current situation, that more people would, so to say, rejoin accepting the regime for a while if only the war ends? It's over. Well, I'm stopping there. Others will continue with the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for the S&D. Nacho.
I'm using Spanish to the guests to use the headphones. Nuestra primera invitada nos ha hablado de las dos guerras, la guerra bélica y la guerra del régimen contra su población. Debo decirles que este hearing fue pensado antes de la guerra para ofrecer una plataforma de esperanza a todas las fuerzas de oposición que estaban trabajando fuera del país. No es nuestra labor, ni lo pretendemos, endosar, apoyar a unos y dejar de apoyar a otros, sino ofrecer un escenario para que todas las fuerzas que trabajan fuera del país tengan una oportunidad de dirigirse a la opinión pública europea. Pero me temo que hay otra tercera guerra, una guerra de guerrillas, porque si es verdad que el régimen intoxica respecto de la labor de las fuerzas políticas en el exilio, también es verdad que las propias
What's happening Iranians abroad, there is about how the Mullah regime can be overturned, and there are continuous accusations made by one side against the other. For the moment, there is no possibility to change the situation, and we're seeing where there are accusations being levied one against the other, and this doesn't create the possibility for a space of hope. There is the Freedom Congress, the IPP, which was referred to. There are a number of opportunities. We know it's difficult, but try to cooperate. Try to find platforms, shared platforms among yourselves, because otherwise all of our support to create platforms will just create further exclusion among yourselves. So really we need to create hope for the people of Iran. But I would like to know your opinion about the conflicts in Iran. The situation was different at the beginning, but now I would like to know what is your opinion about whether or not the war as is taking place, whether it will be useful or not for a change of regime in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Nacho. Who would like to take the floor for the PFE group? No request. Then for the ECR, Sebastian Tinkinen.
Thank you, Chair. Since we have a freedom of speech, I will say the following. I regret that we are witnessing this moment. Reza Pahlavi's name is the only one being shouted in the protests organized by Iranians across Europe. For this reason, I requested that we invite him to address the European Parliament in plenary session. The majority of the Parliament did not support that proposal, so hearing the voice of the Iranian people was downgraded to a committee-level hearing. Following the coordinators' decision, it became clear that Reza Pahlavi could not participate due to prior commitments. Nevertheless, this meeting is still taking place, and I now hear Reza Pahlavi being criticized on the panel in his absence. I wonder whether this is what Iranians expected when we told them we would listen to their voices. I truly respect the presence and time of all the participants here today, because a multi-party democracy requires a diverse opposition. However, I deeply regret the signal we are sending today to the majority of the Iranian people. If anything, this hearing is not balanced, and we all know it. Thank you.
Sorry, but I didn't get your question. So it was more description, but not a question.
There was no question, it was a comment.
Ms. Benadi, I'm chairing this meeting. That's okay for you. Look, Sebastian, I don't want to comment on what you just said, but it's not 100% factually correct. What you just said, I mean, with all due respect, you know exactly that we agreed among coordinators to organize this hearing. Proposals were made, who was supposed to be invited. The groups made proposals, and then we sent out invitations. And some accepted, others, due to prior commitments, couldn't come. Just that we get it right. And I don't think that was 100% clear what you just said, because this is not how it was organized. Now, next is for the Renew Group, who? Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann.
Thank you, Chair. For decades, Iranians have been oppressed by a ruthless regime that grants its people hardly any freedom, a regime that murders Iranians simply for wanting to live in freedom, a regime that finances terrorist groups and proxies across the Middle East, a regime that supplies Russia with weapons in its war against Ukraine, affecting Europe's security directly, a regime developing nuclear capabilities and ballistic missiles with range that reach Europe itself, a regime that intimidates Iran's living right here on European soil. So for decades, we tried diplomacy, we applied pressure, with limited results. Yet, while the trajectory remains uncertain, one principle remains clear: the future of Iran must be determined by its own people, and I'm therefore grateful that we are joined today by voices that represent the breadth, diversity and courage of the Iranian people. On the 16th March, Reza Pahlavi announced a transitional justice framework under the Iran Prosperity Project. So, Ms. Ebadi, you have spent decades defending human rights in Iran at significant personal cost, and you have now been appointed chair of this transition committee. I would therefore like to ask you two questions. First, where does the committee work stand today? What has been achieved already, and what are the next steps? And second, what do you need from the European Union? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now for the Greens, I give the floor to Thomas Weitz, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to all of you for coming and sharing with us the part of the assessment that we just heard from colleague Strack-Zimmermann. I can totally share, and I spare that in my intervention. I must say I'm a bit irritated about the name Reza Pahlavi described as a prince. I think Iranian people shall decide in elections about who leads them, and we shouldn't kind of even give the impression that we kind of suggest to return to a monarchy, but that's maybe just my personal irritation. I have a very concrete question. I mean, this regime was only able to uphold its power because of economic powers. These economic powers very much resulting into the on the export of fossil fuels. I don't think it's a positive outlook for the European Union to even increase our dependency on fossil fuels wherever they come from. So I don't think this is part of a win-win situation. We shall get rid of our dependency of fossil fuels wherever they come from. But my concrete question is, economically, the Revolutionary Guards are much more than a militia or part of the army or a security service, but they are an enormous, and they hold an enormous economic power in Iran and beyond Iran. Also, in many of our European states, there are companies that have links to the Revolutionary Guards, that have links to Iranian companies that are circumventing the sanctions, that are circumventing restrictions. What is your impression? Are we, on the European Union side, doing enough to investigate, to go after dubious money streams, to go after dubious companies, investments into real estate, and so on and so forth? Do you think this is sufficient, or is there more work to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. For the left, Danilo Della Valle. No, Mark Potenga, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to all the guests for their input. Maybe just as you know, I don't consider that the West's policy in the Middle East has been one of promoting human rights and democracy. It's been most about oil and gas, and this is why we have been so strongly criticizing all human rights violations in Iran, but have looked away when the Saudis executed hundreds, or are much less critical of the fact that countries like the Emirates or Qatar have no democracy. And let me not even start about our complicity with Israeli crimes. It is about oil and gas, and I think one example of that has been also recently when we hear the EU representatives unable to condemn the massacre of the Minab girls' school, that's bombed by the US allies. We're unable as European Union to clearly condemn that, or even condemn the war, the US-Israeli war against Iran, which clearly shows double standards. Russia attacks Ukraine, we condemn. United States attack Israel, attack Iran, we do not condemn. I have some concrete questions in this regard on the future of Iran you have. First, I'm not sure if you've all condemned, expressed empathy with the victims of the Minab girls' school, but I want to ask very concretely to our Kurdish invitees. You are often accused of wanting to cut a piece of Iran. Is that true? Or is your model more something like the autonomy we now see in Iraq, Syria, in that kind of, what is your model? I mean, Syria is obviously also chaos. Iraq doesn't really exist anymore, centralized government-wise. To Mrs. Ebadi, there was hundreds of civil rights activists, human rights activists recently calling for the withdrawal, the revoke of your Nobel Prize because you called for military intervention in Iran. Now, recently I heard you say that bombs will not get rid of the Ayatollahs. What is your position exactly, in favor or against war? Mr. Bashir Tash, you participated in demonstrations with the Israeli flags. The Israeli regime has killed tens of thousands of children throughout the region. Is this a model you support? Or, because in that case, I'm not sure where you stand on human rights, so I would like you to clarify this. Because if we really want the sovereignty and popular sovereignty of the Iranian people, we need to be clear about the values first. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For the ESN group, no request to take the floor. Then I now give the floor to Lucas Furlas, AFET Standing Rapporteur on Iran, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I would like to say a few words on the subject as a Standing Rapporteur for Iran. We stand with the people of Iran closely following the conflict and the developments. This is not a situation that we started, but we cannot remain passive when something so serious is happening. From the very first moment in my role as Standing Rapporteur, I have been in contact with those involved. What is needed now is a clear and common strategy, a plan with direction and purpose. Let me be clear, the Iranian people will decide about its future. No one else. We stand with the people of Iran, not only in words, but in commitment. The Iranian people deserve a future with freedom. They deserve dignity, justice, and respect for their rights. I will continue to listen, to act, and to support the people of Iran. For the next 3 years, in my role as rapporteur, I will remain available and engaged. The next day in Iran must be built on this foundation, a country open to its people, a country where voices are not silenced, a country that looks to the future with hope. This is not only a regional issue, it is a matter of values, and we must stand firm. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luca. I now give the floor to other members who would like to speak. In the moment, we have on our list for the EPP, Zhelyana Zovko. Then we have Andrei Kovachev. We have for the SND, Daniel Attar. And we have non-inscrit Mr. Brown and Ms. Sorrell. Evin Inchir. Who else? Mr. De La Valle. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 speakers. I would like to ask you to, 1.5 minutes perhaps, that should be possible. And we kick off with Ms. Sofko.
Right, thank you very much. I will follow up for what my colleague have said already. It seems to me that we don't have a full representation of the opposition here, but nevertheless, I would like to ask the chair to give us also information. Is there any possibility to organize a separate hearing or a new hearing with the leader of the main wave of the opposition as well, so to have a full picture But nevertheless, we have to rely on the fact that the opposition that we like to listen here understands what this parliament has done in the last few decades with the resolutions on the respect of human rights and the breaches of human rights in Iran. So this should not be forgotten in this cacophony of the military actions that are taking place. And can you just give me the answer? How was this women rights and the attack of women in Iran, how was that treated? Was there any discussions among the oppositions and how on the consequences of that? Because we haven't heard a lot in recent times on that. So can you give us the answer? Because sometimes we can support somebody who can turn out to be the same thing is just in a different package. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to Mr. Attar, who's also the Vice Chair of the delegation.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the people who have came to this Parliament to address this subcommittee, which is not a lower level, but it is an institutional body, an important one in this Parliament, and I thank you for being here. It's a privilege to be here in this room, as I told you earlier today, because while we deliver speeches in the chamber, from the comforts of the chamber in Strasbourg, you are fighting on the ground to bring about change in Iran, change for the people of Iran, the wide spectrum of the people of Iran, and our role is simply to support you in your struggle. Your struggle is our struggle. Your fight is our fight. It's not just Western values, as I said earlier, and in other opportunities. The respect for human rights, equality, freedom of expression, and freedom of thought, these are all common human values, our values, and we will continue to support you. And my question is a genuine, not political one. There has been a lot of questions raised about the military operation. We have found ourselves in a very delicate and sensitive situation whereby on one hand we are against foreign military intervention. There is no doubt about my position on that. But on the other hand, we have heard people saying that this military operation gave hope to the people of Iran. It gave them the best chance to topple the regime. I want to hear your position on this. What is your opinion on this military operation? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Kovachev.
Thank you very much, Chair. The representative of different opposition groups to this horrible regime in Tehran, which caused so much damage and so much trouble for the whole world, but especially for the Iranian people. I would like to express my full solidarity with the people of Iran, and the future and destiny of Iran is in your hands, in the hands of all Iranian people, and not in the hands of us or of our political orientations. But we would like only to hear from you how we can help you, what kind of platform we can build for you, what we can do. And our real call is that please unite for the how Mikhail Galar mentioned, for the biggest value, which is the change of the regime and the democratic, secular future of your great country. You need to unite. You must unite to have a united front against this terrible regime. Please, I know that you come from different background, and then you have memories of the past, and then some of you don't like monarchy, some of you like. Doesn't matter this. For the moment, the much more important is the change of the regime, and I'm very unhappy with some member states of the European Union, which they say we can continue with this regime, or we are not aiming regime change. Yes, this is the seek of the people of Iran, that a regime change needs to be done, and we are here to hear how we can help you with this regime change. If you are divided, then there is indeed no hope. And again, the question about the war in Iran, which is by United States and Israel, is it something which can help, or in opposite will be difficult for the regime change?
Thank you. Next is Ibn Inchia.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the guests for being here with us today. I want to, as my colleagues have already done also, show solidarity with all the people in Iran, all parts of the society. And of course, it is not up to us here in the European Parliament to decide who is going to lead the opposition in Iran. What we do, as I've heard that everybody at the stage have asked for also, is to bring together the opposition, not decide that one day we should have some part of it, the other day we should name one person as the leader of the opposition. It's not up to us. And what is being chanted on the streets in the European Union or in Iran, I believe that some have expressed that some names are only being chanted, which is not fully correct because there are other things that also has been chanted. With this said, we need to go from showing solidarity to also take actions. Here it is important to hear from you what can we concretely to do from the side of the European Parliament and from the side of the European Union. Of course, we do not want to see a divided Iran. We want to see an Iran that encompasses the whole population. We don't want to see the country being ended up in the same situation as Syria is, where some part of the society do not know if they will be granted their fundamental rights or not. Here we, as the European Union, have a responsibility. And finally, also, I'm a bit curious to know what is your view on the actions of Israel and US. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Mr. De La Valle.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Proprio una sincera.
It's wonderful to hear from you and to see you face to face. I know that you are working very hard. We should also spare thought for those who are seeking democracy and humanitarian aims and those who are the victims of bombings. I think the EU has lost credibility because of its double standards in for instance, the way it reacted to Ukraine and the way it reacted to the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Now we see military aggression against Lebanon and Iran, and the EU is going from a loss of credibility to a ridiculous image now. US bombs on the Minab school, and we say that there's an ancient history, a wonderful people in Iran, and that the solutions for Iran should be in the hands of the people themselves, not bringing back the monarchy, not bringing back a Shah sponsored by Washington or Brussels. And my question to our guests would be, what do you think of the US and Israeli bombings of Iran? Do you condemn them? What do you think about a possible Syria-style scenario for Iran?
Mr. Brown.
God bless Iranian people. I'm very grateful for the contribution that Persia has in world's history, and that is why I don't personally feel authorized to conspire against or for any regimes, any authorities over there. And I am a member of this Parliament and this Commission for relatively very short period of time, nearly 2 years, and I can observe that every month or two you propose here such a conspiracy. Every month or two you are debating some regime overthrow, you are debating restoring democracy here or there, and I refuse this offer. I don't want my nation, my country, my state to be engaged in such matters. The only regime I would really love to contribute to overthrowing is this regime, this Eurocolhos, European super state regime. Obviously, I want to contribute to some good change of government in my country, but I refuse to conspire against any authorities in Tehran, and I do not recommend any of you to take part in such actions.
Next is Ms. Sorel, please.
I speak in French. J'aimerais savoir.
Could I ask whether you have any suggestions for us? Any alternatives to sanctions? What we have seen is that sanctions fail. I would oppose them. The people tend to suffer, not the leaders. So do you have any examples for us? Do you believe that there is any rallying around the flag effect in Iran? In other words, under intense bombing campaigns carried out by Trump and Netanyahu, can you see a strengthening of the Iranian regime, which would be exactly the opposite of what we seek to achieve? Now, one of the speakers talked about a model similar to that in Lebanon. Now, we have seen destruction in Lebanon and division between the different religions there. Another point, some of our colleagues need to learn that, well, what is democracy? Before conflict broke up, I heard from Iranians, they did not want the West to be interfering, given what had happened with the Ayatollah. At the time, they talked about Reza Pahlavi, and they said that Reza Pahlavi seemed to be Trump and Netanyahu's candidate. If that is the case, then, well, that would speak volumes for them. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I can now give the floor back to each of our speakers for replies. I would suggest try to limit yourself to 3-4 minutes each, 4 minutes the maximum. And the first would be Ms. Ibadi. I hope you're connected. So, Dr. Ibadi?
Yes.
The floor is yours, please. 4 minutes.
خیلی ممنونم آقای رئیس. اجازه بدین این را من به شما بگم وقتی که صحبت از رضا پهلوی میشه یادمون باشه که پسر یک شاهی بوده. خب پسر شاه رو میگن شاهزاده، چرا که شما را میگین پرنس. من نمیدونم چرا یک چنین مسئله ساده و قابل فهمی نماینده محترم اروپا رو باید عصبانی بکنه که چرا بهش میگین شاهزاده. خب پسر شاه بوده. مسئله دیگر این که آیا کاندید اروپا اسرائیل و آمریکاست؟ رضا پهلوی همواره تأکید کردی که ما با هیچ کشوری دشمن نیستیم، برخلاف جمهوری اسلامی ایران که از روز اول سیاست خارجی خودش رو نابودی اسرائیل گذاشت و تمام برنامه‌هاش در همین راستا بود و این باعث شد که تمام بودجه ما صرف پراکسی ها و تسلیحات نظامی بشه. من از کسی که این سوال رو کرده و نگرانه که اسرائیل حمایت بکنه از رضا پهلوی متقابلا یه سوال دارم. وظیفه نابودی اسرائیل رو چه کسی محول کرده بود به جمهوری اسلامی که ما 47 سال بایستی بودجه‌مون صرف یه چنین کاری بشود؟ ما که با اسرائیل مرز مشترک نداشتیم، چرا 47 ساله که جمهوری اسلامی تمام برنامه‌هاش رو صرف نابودی اسرائیل کرده؟ در خصوص اینکه چه کار می شود کرد اروپا از اروپا چه توقعی داریم؟ ببینید همونطوری که بعد از جنگ اوکراین اموال وابستگان پوتین رو مصادره کردید، میتونید همین کار رو بکنید. میتوانید کمک نکنید به بقای رژیم. ما یادمون نمیره وقتی که در دادگاه استکهلم یک جنایتکار محکوم شد به حبس ابد، شما این رو فوراً معاوضه کردید با یک گروگان. یادمون نمیره در همین بلژیک یک دیپلمات تروریست که موقع حمله مواد منفجره دستگیر شده بود و به 20 سال حبس محکوم شده بود، شما این رو معاوضه کردید و در ایران با دست گل به استقبالش آمدند و الان جزء دیپلمات‌های اروپاییه. مثال‌های زیادی دارم برای اینکه بگویم اروپا چشمش رو بر مردم ایران و جنایاتی که جمهوری اسلامی در حق مردم میکنه شما بستید. خواهش من این است که فقط توجه شما به حرفایی که یعنی کارهای شما منحصر نشود به اینکه جلساتی بگذارید حرفای ما رو بشنوید و بعد باز هم کار خودتون رو بکنید. چرا سفرای اروپایی رو فرا نمیخوانید و سفرای ایران رو از کشورتون بیرون نمی کنید؟ سطح روابط با ایران رو از سفارت میتوان تنزل داد به کاردار. اینها به دولت ایران نشون میدهد و ثابت میکنه که دولت اتحادیه اروپا به مردم ایران هم توجه داره. از من سوال شد که چرا به کودکان میناب توجه نمی کنید. من میخوام خواهش بکنم به نوشته های من، به کارهای من شما توجه بکنید. من چقدر راجع به کودکان میناب نوشتم و کار کردم. اگر الان اسمی از بچهای میناب نبردم برای اینکه در 7 دقیقه وقتی که به من داده شده بود من متمرکز شدم راجع به نقض حقوق بشر در ایران فقط در 4 ماه. یعنی شما ببینید در 4 ماه این بلاها سر مردم ایران آمده و باز هم شما میترسید که ایران بشود سوریه. یادتون رفته بود که دخالت ایران و حمایت از بشار اسد سوریه رو تبدیل به اون وضعیت فاجعه بار کرد. من تعجب میکنم اخبار ایران رو چرا مطالعه نمی کنید که متوجه بشوید که در ایران چه میگذره. و وقتی که ما صحبت میکنیم بیشترین نگرانی شما این است که چرا بین ما ایرانی ها اختلاف است. ما ایرانی ها برخلاف آنچه که شما فکر میکنید راجع به یک مسئله متحد هستیم و اون مسئله خیلی مهمه. ما متحد هستیم. جمهوری اسلامی ما متحد هستیم. جمهوری اسلامی باید برود و جاش یک حکومت دموکرات و سکولار بشود.
Yes, thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you very much. And now
لا قسەکانی یەکێک لە بەڕێزاندا ئەوە هاتبوو کە ئێوە دەتوانن یەک بگرن و پێکەوە یەکریز بن لە دژی ڕژیمی کۆماری ئیسلامی ئێران. من دەڵێم بەڵێ ئەوە دەکرێ. ئێمە لە کوردستان 6 حیزب یەکمان گرتووە هاوپەیمانیمان پێکەناوە لەگەڵ 12 حیزبی نەتەوەکانی جیاوازی ئێرانی. ئێمە ساڵهایە کە هاوپەیمانین و پێکەوە پێکەوە خەبات دەکەین بۆ بەدەستهێنانی مافەکانمان کە پێشێل کراوە و گۆڕینی ڕێژیمی کۆماری ئیسلامی ئێران. بەڵام ئەگەر بمانەوێ ئەو یەکگرتنانە بەرینتر بکەینەوە پێویستیمان بە یارمەتی هەیە. یەکێتی ئورووپا دەتوانێت لەو پەیوەندیدا یارمەتی بدا و زیاتر لە دەوری کۆمان بکاتەوە بۆەوەی کە یەکگرتوویەکی بەهێزتر و بەتواناتر پێک بێنین بۆەوەی کە ئالتەرناتیڤێک لە نەتیجەیدا جێبەجێ بێ. لە پەیوەندی دەگەڵ هێرشی ئەمریکا و ئیسرائیل بۆ سەر ئێران بەڕێزێک باسی وەی کرد کە ئەو هێرشە ڕەنگە خەڵکی ڕاکێشێ بۆ لای ڕێژیمی کۆماری ئیسلامی. من ئەوەتان پێ دەڵێم کە خەڵکی ئێران گەیشتۆتە نوقتەیەک کە بە هەموو شێوەیەک و کۆمەک لە هەموو لایەک وەربگرێ بۆی کە ئەو حکوومەتە نەمێنێ. هێرشکردن شەڕکردن زەرەری هەیە، بەڵام لەگەڵ ڕێژیمێک کە بە هیچ جوور لەگەڵ خەڵکەکەی خۆی و لەگەڵ دنیا ئاش نابێتەوە بێجگە لەوە ڕێگایەکی دیکە بۆ خەڵک نەماوە. چاو لێ بکەن 45 ساڵە ئەو حکوومەتە لەلایەن ئوروپاوە لەلایەن ئەمریکاوە مماشاتی دەگەڵ دەکرێ، حەول دەدرێت سیاسەتی بگۆڕێ، بەڵام مقایسە بکەن لە ڕۆژەکانی ئەوەڵ تا ئێستا ئایا کۆماری ئیسلامی لەو بارەوە هیچ ئاڵوگۆڕێکی بەسەردا هاتووە؟ ئایا مەترسی تروریزم لە ئوروپا تروریزمی کۆماری ئیسلامی کەمتر بۆتەوە؟ حولی زۆر دراوە بۆ توێش. ئێمە لە کوردستانی ئێران لە سەرەتاوە هەموو حیزبەکان هاوپەیمان بوون بۆی کە دەگەڵ کۆماری ئیسلامی دانیشین و داخوازەکانمان لە ڕێگای وتوێژەوە جێبەجێ بکەین. بەڵام کۆماری ئیسلامی لە جاتی ئەوەی کە جوابمان بداتەوە هێزەکانی ڕێکخستەوە و هێرشی کرد بۆ سەر کوردستان و فتوای جەهادیدا لە دژی خەڵک. دوای شەڕی ئێران و عێراق لە ساڵی 1989 کۆماری ئیسلامی بۆ خۆی داوای کرد کە لەگەڵ ئێمە وتوێژ بکە. سکرتێری گشتی ئێمە ئەو دەمی دکتۆر عەبدوڕەحمانی قاسملوو هات بۆ ڤیەن لەگەڵ نوێنەرانی بەناو دیپلۆماتی ئێرانی دانیشێ بۆ حەلی مەسەلەکە، بەڵام لەسەر مێزی وتوێژ ترۆریان کرد. 45 ساڵە ئەو ڕێژیمە لەگەڵ خەڵکی ئێران شەڕی هەیە، لەگەڵ دنیا شەڕی هەیە. ڕێژیمێک کە هیچ گرنگی و ئەهەمیەتێک بە بیر و بۆچوونی ئەوڕۆی ئەو سەردەمە دانانێ. مەسەلەی دموکراسی، مافی مرۆڤ و ڕێزدانان بۆ جیاوازیەکان لە نەزەر ئەو ڕژیمەوە ئیمکانی نییە، چونکە ئیدئۆلۆژیەکەیان ئیجازەیان پێنادا. و ئەو لەو مەیدانەدا تەنها مەحکومکردنی ئیقداماتی کۆماری ئیسلامی ئێران هیچ تاسیرێکی نەبووە. بۆیە ئەگەر لەبەر خەڵکی ئێرانیش نەبێ پێویستە ئوروپا بۆ ئەمنکردنی وڵاتەکەی خۆی، بۆ کەمکردنەوەی تەرۆریزم لە وڵاتەکەیدا هاوکاری زیاتر و عەمەلیتر لەگەڵ خەڵکی ئێران بکە بۆی کە ئەو ڕێژیمە نەمێنێ. چون تا ئەو ڕێژیمە بمێنێ هەرچەند لاوازیش بێ لە سیاسەت و ئیدۆلۆژیەکەی خۆی کە سیاسەتەکە لەسەر بنچینەوی دامەزراوە دەست هەڵناگرێ. ئێمە پێمان وایە کە ئێستا خەڵک لایەنگری لەو هێزە دەکا کە بە شێوەی عەمەلی کۆماری ئیسلامی سەرکوت دەکا، هێرش دەکا بۆ سەر کۆماری ئیسلامی ئێران. زۆر بەجێ دەبێ کە ئوروپا لەگەڵ ئەمریکا پێکەوە ڕێگایەک ببینەوە لە بە هاوکاری لەگەڵ هێزەکانی ئۆپۆزسیۆنی ئێرانی کار بکەین بۆ ئەوەی کە ڕێژیمەکە نەمێنێ. سپاسان دەکەم.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I give the floor to Mr. Motadi.
As for the people rallying around the flag, this is not the case in Kurdistan, in Kurdish areas, but I haven't seen any such things in the whole of Iran. So I think this is more of a myth than reality. The second thing is what Europe can, as far as the Iran is concerned. Two range of things. One, putting more pressure, adopting a tougher policy, a tougher stance against the Iranian regime, be it economically, politically, diplomatically. Second, helping the Iranian opposition getting united, facilitating the dialogue, providing forums for that. And I dare say that please find, however you might have some differences with the United States, find ways, as far as the Iran is concerned, find ways to cooperate with them, to have them engaged also in this effort. We in Kurdistan have managed to getting united. We have now an alliance of Iranian Kurdistan political parties. We also, as Kurds, can play an important role, a significant role in getting the Iranian opposition united. We are committed to that, and we will be partners for that. That is why I ask the European Union and this committee to work on helping, assisting, facilitating unification of the Iranian democratic opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motadi. Mr. Bashiatash.
یک پرسشی که خیلی از دوستان مطرح کردند درباره اتحاد بود، اتحاد نیروهای اپوزیسیون. اول از همه این که بگم من در 47 سال گذشته هرگز اینقدر اتحاد میان ایرانیان ندیدم به شکل مشخصی. مردم ایران همچنان که گفتم از کرمانشاه، بزرگترین شهر کردنشین ایران که یکی از مراکز اصلی تظاهرات بود، در دیماه و کشته‌های بسیار زیادی رو داد، تا مشهد، از تبریز و رشت تا در شمال تا بوشهر، مردم در این تظاهرات به فراخوان شاهزاده رضا پهلوی شرکت کردند و او رو صدا زدند. من هرگز در این 47 سال گذشته چنین اتحادی رو میان مردم ندیدم و به طور مشخص میتونم بگم که برای نخستین بار پس از 47 سال هست که ما یک رهبر مشخص داریم. البته که شاهزاده رضا پهلوی خواستار اتحاد همه نیروهای سیاسی شده. این اتحاد باید پیرامون اصولی انجام بشه. افراد همینجوری نمیتونن متحد شن، باید اصولی وجود داشته باشه. 4 اصل رو شاهزاده رضا پهلوی اعلام کردند: تمامیت ارضی، حقوق شهروندی، نظامی مبتنی بر حقوق شهروندی و برابری کامل حقوق تمام شهروندان ایران فارغ از قومیت، دین، جنسیت، سکولاریسم و اینکه نوع نظام رو مردم ایران باید تعیین کنند. متاسفانه برخی گروه‌های سیاسی میگویند که مردم ایران حق ندارن نوع نظام سیاسی خودشون رو انتخاب کنن، برای اینکه مردم ایران حق ندارن مثلا نوع پادشاهی رو انتخاب کنند. برخی از گروه‌های سیاسی دیگه تمامیت ارضی رو به هیچ وجه حاضر نیستن بپذیرند. تمامیت ارضی در داخل ایران برای ایرانیان مانند به رسمیت شناختن مرزهای بین المللی است. اینکه گروهی مرزهای بین المللی رو حاضر نباشه به رسمیت بشناسه، گمان کنم دشوار خواهد بود اتحاد باهاش. اینها اصولی هست که هر گروهی بپذیره بدون شک میتونه در این بستر انقلاب ملی قرار بگیره. پرسش دیگری که شد، خب یک مسئله دیگه این است که ببینید کشورهای غربی نیستن که میتونن به مردم ایران بگن چه چیزی بده چه چیزی خوبه. اونها فقط میتونن بگن که رژیم آینده باید مبتنی بر حقوق شهروندی باشه، اما اونها حق ندارن بگن ما از این بدمون میاد چون پسر باباشه، یا از اون به هر حال خوشمون میاد چون یه گروه به هر حال مسلح نظامی و اونها باید بیان در ایران قدرت پیدا کنن. نه خیر، این رو مردم ایران هستن که تعیین میکنن. در مورد دعوت از شاهزاده رضا پهلوی پرسیده شد. خب ایشون در ایتالیا امروز هستن در مجلس سنا، ولی گمان کنم خیلی خوب هست که یک بار پارلمان اروپا شخص ایشون رو دعوت بکنن به تنهایی به عنوان نه رهبری گروه سیاسی بلکه به عنوان رهبر انقلاب ملی حضور داشته باشن و سخنرانی بکنن. این بهترین. در مورد پرچم اسرائیل صحبت شد، در یکی از نمایندگان صحبت کرد. این مربوط به 29 اکتبر 3 سال پیشه، یعنی تنها چند روز پس از 7 اکتبر که جبهه 7 آبان به همراه جامعه یهودیان اروپا برنامه مشترکی رو برگزار کرد در بروکسل در محکومیت 7 اکتبر. من نمی‌دونستم که برگزاری مراسم مشترک با جامعه یهودی برای محکومیت جنایت 7 اکتبر میتونه مورد به هر حال انتقاد برخی از نمایندگان پارلمان اروپا قرار بگیره. مسئله دیگه مسئله اعدام هاست که گفتن چرا اعدام های عربستان رو مطرح نمی‌کنید. من میگم اینجا بحث ایرانه. فقط این رو میخوام بهتون بگم در سال 2025 82% اعدام ها در ایران صورت گرفت، اما پس از کشتار دیما اکنون اعدام ها به شدت افزایش پیدا کرده، به ویژه اعدام های سیاسی. گمان کنم از 82% از اعدام های جهان به بالای 90-95% خواهیم رسید و جهان در اینجا باید اقدام بکنه. اینکه از اروپا چه توقعی داریم؟ انتظار دارم که مانند دهه 90 که در برابر جنایت علیه بشریت در یوگسلاوی ایستاد، در برابر جنایت علیه بشریت در ایران هم بیسته. در سربرنیتسا حدود 8000 نفر کشته شدند و این به عنوان قتل عام و جنایت علیه بشریت شناخته شد توسط اروپا، اما در قبال ایران ساکت هستند. دیگر اون اروپا اون جرأت خودش رو نداره. من یاد حرف چرچیل میافتم در مورد چمبرلین که گفت بین جنگ و ننگ رو انتخاب کرد ولی جنگ رو هم خواهد داشت، چرا که جمهوری اسلامی تهدیدی برای موجودیت اروپا است. اینکه اروپا چه کار بکنه، یک به سیاست مماشات با جمهوری اسلامی پایان بده. هفته پیش مکرون خوشحال بود که 2 گروگان فرانسوی آزاد شدند، اما سال پیش هم خوشحال بود که 2 گروگان آزاد شدند. من صحبتامو پایان میدم چون که جناب رئیس میگن وقتی ندارم، ولی امیدواریم در جلسات آینده صحبت‌های خودمون رو بتونیم ادامه بدیم.
Right. Thank you very much. And finally, Ms. Bizadi.
It is very sad that I hear some people ignore the fact that we in Iran have seen people showing the flag of Iran, the national flag, the original flag, the lion and sun flag, calling for Prince Reza Pahlavi, thousands in the streets who got killed, the youth, the kids, the elderlies. And then the focus goes from the people of Iran getting killed, getting murdered, getting massacred by the regime to Israel and America, and if that's correct, to have the war with the Islamic regime. So I think we need to have a review on history and what we are talking about and the questions that we ask. Somebody says, oh, I get irritated when you say Prince Reza Pahlavi. This is very interesting because this person is Prince anyway, as Ms. Ebadi said. That's one thing. And the other is, so you get irritated by the people of Iran. by the ones who got killed, the ones who called for Prince, the ones who showed his picture. Are you irritated? Why are we here? We are here for the people of Iran, not a specific group. I should emphasize on this. We are here for lords, for gilakis, for courts, for everyone from every corner of the country. If there is a discrimination in Iran, it's because of the ideology, the Islamism, which started, the whole revolution started with the mixture of communism and Islamism. That is the main problem that we are dealing with in Iran. Let's have a focus on that. I'm Lor, I'm from the ethnic Lor. Should I talk about why I don't speak Lori, why this and that happened to Lords? Then what about other my dear patriots? And the movement of Zan Zendegi Azadi, somebody said that it was a Kurdistan movement. No, it was a national movement of Iran. Because when a Kurd died, we didn't care who she was from. We just cared that it was an Iranian person. So everybody came out to the streets. What about other cities? What about us? What about the people who are out from every ethnic, every language, every dialect in Iran, united, calling for Reza Pahlavi, Prince Reza Pahlavi? I should focus on that, emphasize on that. And then showing his pictures in the streets, and then getting killed and massacred by the regime for the same reason. What about them? Shouldn't we see them? What about the films, all the clips on the internet? The families of the massacred children. And then, why don't we talk about the fact that Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi was candidate for Nobel Prize? Why do you think was that? So all we hear is that, yeah, we had a dictator, and now the prince, and then they want to get back to monarchy. This is the call of people. As some of you repeatedly said, this is not anyone's decision but the people of Iran. And the people of Iran are calling for Prince. And the interesting thing is that the prince, what he's doing is not for monarchy or getting back to it. We may go back to it if the election goes towards that. But right now, we are in transitional period. What he is asking for is to get united, everybody, under an umbrella with the 4 principles that Mr. Bashir Tash already mentioned. The Iran's integrity, to care for the whole land to be kept, and then the equality of every citizen of Iran, whether it's Lor, whether it's Kurd, whether it's Tehrani, no matter what or where and what religion they have, everybody to be equal, women, men, any other gender or sex. And then to have the separation between the state and the religion. One of the main problems that we have is having the Islamist state, and everything is on that fundamentalist belief. Is that enough? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. We now come to the end of today's item, but nonetheless, I see that the S&D coordinator has requested to take the floor. Please, Nacho.
Yeah, I stick to my idea that I expressed clearly that it's not our role to decide on behalf of the Iranian people. Whatever the Iranian people is decided democratically, we are accepted and we are okay. I only want to clarify to Mr. Bashir Tash, we invited Mr. Pahlavi more than 1 month ago, and he decided that he had another commitment. But the invitation was convened. We agreed on the name of Mr. Pahlavi and other names, and then please don't insist in there that we have to invite it. We did it, and he decided freely not to attend this gathering. And for that reason, because I'm the coordinator of my group, and this was the decision of the coordinators board, and I would like to be very clear on that. I'm not expressing any preference. My only preference is for the Iranian people to have the opportunity to express democratically who they want to be the rulers of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Nacho. Would anyone else? No, it's only for members to applause. Yes? Would anyone else like to take the floor? That is not the case. Then I would like to thank, Ms. Sorel.
J'ai été perturbée. J'ai été perturbée et choquée.
I was disturbed. I was shocked by this request, Madam, to rewrite history. That there was kind of disdain. I was shocked by that. I didn't find that a very diplomatic form of behaviour to accuse us of not knowing our history. I just wanted to make that comment.
So, I don't see Miss Neumann, please.
Yes. I think we have given you today a wonderful example how diverse a parliament can be and yet govern 500 million people. So maybe that can serve as an idea of where united in diversity Iran could head to.
I would like to thank our guest speakers for attending today's meeting. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you for coming to Brussels. I think this was very valuable for us to get a better insight. Once again, thank you very much and all the best for you personally. And also thanks to Ms. Ibadi who was connected online. We will continue our meeting in 2 minutes with the next item.
Parce qu'alors ça se